Here we go. Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, the 27th of April, Bengals UK. Here, back with you on YouTube. Oh, I'm getting.
Ooh.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Paul's coming to us from the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, get some mad feedback there. Very good. That's a good start. Yes, we're on YouTube only this morning because X is now something different and Facebook's being silly buggers. So just on YouTube today. And joining me, because obviously it is the Sunday morning after the weekend before. It is we had lots of fun this weekend covering the draft. Joining us is Jamie Rowe at Trek Hot Beast, as you can see, and a gin convert. We normally see Moz talking about craft beer, but now he's a gin convert. So from Stoke, it's Matthew Morris. And Moz, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Good, tired, jazzed up though, jazzed for this.
And also making his debut on some Bengals content, it is from Edinburgh, Callum Turner. Hey, Callum, right, I beg your pardon. Thank you very much, Callum, for joining us.
Quite all right. Good morning. How are we doing?
Now, Callum, you are you're a coach, aren't you? DB's coach with a great British women's football team. Is that right?
I am, yes.
Very good.
Amongst
Well,
other
there you
things,
go.
yeah.
To have some actual knowledge in this kind of area where we try and just blag it. But yes, we've had the draft, haven't we? So we're here just to kind of opine, and it's not really the fact that there's loads of opinion out there already, but we thought we'd add grist to the mill. Jamie, you were manning the Bengals UK Twitter feed on the Thursday and Friday night. First of all, how was it? Secondly, just take a kind of temperature check on what the kind of reaction was during those first couple of evenings.
Oh, good grief. So, I mean, I always enjoy the nighttime shifts. So I kind of leaned into that. I've recently had a cold, so I was like dosed up on Beecham's. There was all sorts of lunacy coming out of my head at that time. It was, yeah, that's the vibe we're always aiming for. I think the reactions to certainly the first three picks from Bengals fans across the Twitterverse was incredibly negative. I think overly negative, given how stark some of that was. The players we've taken, maybe weren't the ones expected, but there are things to work with there, and I do think we've come out of this process with the possibility of three starters.
Yeah. Callum, it did really seem like a weekend of two halves, really, or a draft of two halves for the Bengals. The first half, it was kind of sent, as you said, sent the fandom into absolute apoplexy, and then the second one is like, the round, like yesterday's day three picks, like, oh yeah. So let's go through those first three picks if we can. Shamar Stewart, Ears Russia. Exactly. I think you said it, Jamie. I really do think Jeff Hobson had a hand in making that selection. Second round, Demetrius Knight, the linebacker, and then we did take an offensive lineman, Dylan Fairchild. So I'd say, the first two were definitely the most controversial, I think. If there is a controversy there, what would you say? Is there a controversy there? Are people just kind of going nuts because the Bengals didn't pick the players that they've been mocking and kind of selecting in their mocks? I don't know. There's discussions about value. There's all sorts going on here, isn't there? What's your reaction to those day 1 and 2 picks?
Yeah, I think the initial thing for me is the Bengals board is clearly different to every consensus board that you have ever read, whichever commentator that is available. Players they've picked are incredibly Bengals selections, though. Like Shamar Stewart is the absolute prototypical defensive end that they love, regardless of the lack of production or whatever. So it really wasn't a hard thing if he was going to be there to see us drafting him, and obviously that's how it played out. The Demetrius Knight one is the one that I find most puzzling. Like, if we wanted a do-it-all linebacker, like, Jihad Campbell was sat there and was one of one in this draft. Why did we not take him? Okay, there's the medicals. I appreciate that. But, like, if you wanted a difference maker for this defense, he was there. And a guy that could probably start as soon as he's healthy, whereas Shamar is probably going to come in and be in a kind of rotational role until he, hopefully asserts himself as a starter. So I found those a little bit troubling. We kind of backed ourselves into a corner with positions of need, as we always do, needing to pick certain guys based off of what the team needs right now. But yeah, I'm really curious as to why we went about things the way that we did. I've no knocks on these players. I think they will develop into quality players for us, but I do think we could have drafted them the other way around and got potentially superior talent for the picks that we had. Dylan Fairchild, yeah, okay. Quality starter in a quality program. Of the 3 available Georgia interior offensive linemen, he probably would have been the 3rd one that I would have picked. But yet again, projects to be a quality starter for a long time. It's going to be interesting to see if he can beat out the likes of Bolson. And then obviously the Jalen Travis that we brought in, that may be a tackle, maybe a guard. We'll see. Really interesting first 3 picks to see how that plays out. And that'll probably affect how our score is graded in season's time from there.
Mars, would you use the adjective interesting to describe those first 3 picks? What were were you one of the guys that recoiled in horror as the picks were getting announced over the first couple of days?
Well, Jamie will know my opinion on Shamar Stewart. before the draft happens, I said if we end up with Shamar Stewart, I was going to take myself to the River Trent.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, I was quite dramatic with that one. I think.
Okay, but you were dead against it. Tell us why you're dead against Shamar.
The problem is, it's not necessarily Shamar himself. Again, he's athletically, he's an absolute freak. It's no denying that, and he does cause issues. The problem is, he just lacks that little bit at the end. And do I trust the Bengals to progress that side? I know we've had new coaches. I think it's more the PTSD, really, of not really progressing these type of talents. We've had so many decent to good edge players coming through, and they've never really took that step. And with Shamar, I think you're going to need that step. At the end of the day, the potential is ridiculous. It is anything it could be. But I need to see it. I do think we were going to take Walter Nolan. I think we got sniped there, and
definitely,
he is perfect Bengals player.
Draft either. That's happened before on a few different occasions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people are saying he panicked and he's like Billy Price. I think Shamar was. I think it's about 60-40 Walter Nolan, Shamar Stewart, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, I just need to see from the Bengals, really. That's my concern.
What about Demetrius Knight? Too old, they say. Around too early, they say. But as everyone is reading on Twitter, he's was one of my main guys that I follow throughout the process. So I'm kind of really happy that maybe just for my own ego, but just kind of. He looks to be a really good player, and isn't that what this is about? Are we focusing too much on value here, or is that do we care about that sort of stuff?
I think the value. I think I agree with Callum. I think all these players, if you're taking the round after, I think we're a lot happier. And if we pick up a Malachi Starks, for example, a Jihad Campbell, one of these players, I'm a lot more favourable. Like Demetrius, I think it's not very hard to conceive that he's better than Jermaine Pratt day one. And I think he's perfect for this team. Get old, and the ceiling's obviously very limited because of his age. But I think he's just a good player now. And I think that's what the Bengals need. I think we've bemoaned the lack of instant impact. And I think he brings that instantly. I think it's a really good pick. Granted, a round too early, but he is starting day one.
What about you, Jamie? Do you agree with that? I mean, you manfully handled all the negativity on Thursday.
Sorry.
A couple of days after the event, are you a bit? I mean, were you kind of scratching your head during the time, and if you were, are you kind of a bit less head scratchy now? What's your feeling about the whole thing?
So, like Callum, I was thinking that Jihad Campbell was probably, the player that we should have gone for if none of the big hitters got down to 17. He's the guy I picked for the Gridiron Gents mock draft, and I gave my reasons in that once you pair Campbell and Logan Wilson, that's one of the better linebacker cores going. Shamar is a player that I don't think gets down to the second round because people are going to gamble on the absolutely elite athleticism that he has. It may well just be a case of teaching him how to tackle. I've watched a bit of Shamar now. There's good and bad in what he does, so that there are plays where he pops off the screen, he's sort of immediately kind of taken over and done it, and then there's plays where he just simply doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. But if we can refine him, if we can make something out of him, that could be really big and really useful. With Demetrius, he's 25. We're drafting someone who's essentially a year 4 player. On that, under other circumstances,
he is actually 24.
Is he actually 24?
The Beast got it wrong, so he's 24 and a half as things stand.
Right, so he's 24 and a half. He's 24 until he's 25. That's how it works. And so he's 24. So yeah, he's on the older side. I think that probably means that I would have preferred him as a round 3 guy rather than a round 2 one. And then you got Fairchild in the 3rd round, who he's got a really decent chance to take over from Volson, or if the Bengals do something sensible, which touch any wood you can find, they need to go out and get themselves a free agent guard for Fairchild to sit behind for a year, and then we'll see what we've got with him.
Well, interestingly, Dan Pitcher was saying he expects Fairchild to really compete for that left guard spot straight away, and I think a lot of people were saying that I saw yesterday that after the draft was completed, they're trying to be as positive as possible, and they're saying, look, we might have like 4 starters out of these 6 picks right here. Whether that's kind of I don't think, like you said, Callum, I don't think Stewart will start straight away. He'll be worked into that rotation. I guess it just depends on what happens to Henderson, right? That's the key thing in all this. That's really interesting. Yash, good morning to you, my friend. Thank you so much. He gave the draft a B-. We did well with the undrafted free agents, which Moz is going to go through in a second. Need to see an immediate impact. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? If Stewart can come in, and he looks like a really sound guy as well, right? So you hope that he's got the right head on his shoulders and he's ready to learn. And I think he probably knows that there's a lot of refinement that needs to happen there.
I think the thing for me with Stewart is he could be incredibly similar year 1 to what we saw out of Miles Murphy last year. A lot of pressure, but not a lot of necessarily converting that into sacks.
Yeah.
And if in a world where we keep Trey Hendrickson happy, if we re-sign him, great. If we've got 2 edges that can apply pressure consistently, but with Murphy and Stewart alternating to keep one another fresh, we're in a good place. If we can get anything out of rushing the middle, then we're in a very, very good place.
Well, this is the next question, I guess, guys. Feel free to jump in. Yeah, Yash was saying Cam Sample and Osai rotating too. Golden did say that he's planning to, kick those guys inside for a bit of extra pass rushing juice. Actually, let's just hold it there. Let's bring in Andrew Dockerell. He's coming live from the London Marathon. He's not running it, obviously, because that would be suicide. But
that'd be bad television.
Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. Not the most scenic view. This is Greenwich Station.
Right.
Just tracking back to the race front now.
Okay.
So dropped off. A lot of people, a lot of trains. Very busy. Very hot day.
Yeah, it's a lovely day, isn't it? Perfect for running 30 miles. So good luck to your partner, and good luck to Tony Bosch and Stacey from Northern Kentucky, who have come over to run the London Marathon today. So, Dockers, you were good enough to bash out your snap grades last night. Fair to say, a bit of a mixed bag. How are you feeling this morning about the draft? We've got these guys' opinions. Let's throw yours into the mix.
Yeah, I think there's upside with all of these picks. I think the ceiling of this draft was limited by the free agency to me. There were so many holes to fill that they were very restricted with those top 3 picks, where they went what they could fill. I think the upside of Shamar is very high and very exciting, but the floor is also very low. And the Miles Murphy pick comes to mind there.
And Demetrius Knight, be careful, he's my guy, but there are obvious arguments and discussions to be had about value in round 2 for a 24-and-a-half-year-old linebacker. What's your take on Demetrius?
Yeah, 25. So he is pretty much a one contract guy you'd expect, but ready to start. So again, throwback to kind of Drew Sample vibes. Ready to play, but is the value there?
Yeah.
And Dylan Fairchild in round 3. The Bengals needed to go offensive line. They didn't go Ratledge in round 2, who was there before. Miles is shaking his head, but but we did get an offensive lineman and guard. So yeah, what's your thoughts on Fairchild?
Obviously, Peter seems to be a big fan of his. Again, I thought it was late, given the need to plug and play a 3rd rounder. We've seen what happened when we did that with Cordell Volson. But the upside is there. Pass protection is strong in terms of the production grades, but there's inconsistencies. So for him to come in and start left guard, there are questions, there are concerns.
And we're splitting this discussion up, Andrew, into 2 parts, because that seems to be the way. It seems to be a draft of 2 halves. The first half quite controversial. The second half, I think the consensus is that now we're talking that second half. So why don't you launch our kind of second half of the draft discussion with your thoughts on Rivers and Brooks and all those guys?
Yeah, I think Barrett Carter was. I guess it's a future need. He kind of fills a role. I don't think he's an instant starter, but he's got a good special teams background. A really high level recruit out of high school. I think he was the #1 linebacker out of high school. So there's talent there. His instincts didn't really live up to that and kind of become the top level player he should have been from a recruit standpoint. But the athleticism and the ability there is definitely there. Moving to Rivers, I think Rivers could start before Fairchild. Like he's really, really good and really kind of versatile, just in terms of the ability to play inside and outside. Fairchild is expected to start in that role, but Rivers could overtake him. That's probably my bold take there. And then we'll go to the 6th rounder. The deepest point in this class was the running backs, so a good pick in that terms of value. Brooks by far was my favorite pass protection running back in this class, so he's going to sit with P. Ryan, learn from P. Ryan, and then hopefully take that role over next year onwards.
Great stuff. Andrew, we'll let you go, mate. Have a great day down there in sunny southeast London, and hopefully your partner comes through the PB and raises lots of money for charity. So do you want to give who's she raising money for? Do you know?
So she's raising money for the bone cancer charity. Her cousin died, sadly, at the age of 17 from bone cancer. So bone cancer is the charity.
Great stuff. So anybody wants to tip in a few quid, I will, because cancer has been very much part of my life for the past certainly a month or so, and certainly this week. But anyway, Andrew, cheers, mate. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks all. Good day.
Right, now then, I just realised I've got a tag hanging out. I'm not a tag slag normally, but I obviously am today. As you know, I couldn't make it over to Green Bay, but I've not got to wear this yet, so I'm going to wear it today loudly and proudly. Callum, do you jive with what Andrew was saying there? There's some interesting sort of day 3 picks that could actually end up being better value and all the rest of it for the day 1 and 2 picks.
Yeah, I really liked our day 3. I think we've got a replacement for ADG straight away that can come in and compete with Oren Burks, which is a need. Become that special teams ace, and then sort of rotational linebacker as and when we need. Fantastic. Love the Rivers pick. I thought he was more likely to end up in the 3rd round, to be honest. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that, and I think he gives us the versatility to potentially, a year from now, get rid of Cody Ford. He's a straight out and out replacement, but with much higher upside than Ford right now. And I don't disagree with the fact that he could probably be out Fairchild to a starting spot, just on the amount of playing experience that he has. And then to finish with a running back is probably the most interesting, I think, of the final picks, given that we normally keep 4. It makes it a really interesting battle as to who the 4th one is. Do we, get rid of Zach Moss, or and get some cap savings there? Do we keep Trevion Henderson, he sticks every single year, never sees the field on really as a running back, but is one of those core special teams guys. So I really liked Brooks in particular because of his pass protection. He was borderline suicidal at times trying to protect his quarterback, and that is exactly what we need from a running back right now. And if you can learn from P. Ryan, finesse that game a little bit, well, laughing. The fact he's also was one of the stat leaders in missed tackles for a running back is a really big plus. I think one of the nice things across all of the draft picks is we're actually picking athletes now rather than just big bodies.
Well, that can be used as a criticism as well as because we see certainly in certainly with Stewart, we seem to, like we did with Murphy last year, we seem to be going traits over production, right? So you can look at it both ways. Just you can spin it both ways. Jamie, you're itching to come in there. I can feel it.
Yeah, it's about Taj, which I think is a really good pick. We do usually keep 4. I wonder if it's P. Ryan that's going to be the odd man out here, because Taj can do things to the same extent that P. Ryan could. He's younger, he's got more upside, and the pass blocking is exceptional.
And also, he's like physically kind of quite similar to P. Ryan, you would say, right? A bit of a bowling ball right there, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good chat. Moz, what do you think? I have to say I liked Barrett Carter, and I had mocked him, this week actually, because Demetrius Knight had gone, by the way, by the 3rd round. So I wanted a linebacker because I think that we needed some new dynamism in that middle of the park, and I went for Barrett Carter. 2 linebackers though. That surprised me. Did that surprise you?
Barrett Carter's probably my favourite pick, to be honest with you. Like him, if he was there on the mock draft, I was always getting him round 4 every time. He's a cannon. If you watch any tape, he is just going to go bang straight into anyone, and he's athletic enough. It's side to side, but in a direct line, he is gunning at you. He's really good blitzer, and I think he's a really nice complementary linebacker room. The last time Al Golden was here, the linebacker room was always an issue pre-hand. Then he went to a strength. I think again it's a strength again. I think we've really improved the linebacker room, and I love the Barrett Carter pick. I really do. Yeah.
Rivers, are you a fan of the Rivers pick as well?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Doc has said. I think Rivers, probably might beat out Fairchild if he was like tomorrow. And great anchor, really beefy. Nothing really gets past him. I think he'll make a really good guard. And, protection Joe is how we win games. And I think we've actually tried to sort it out. And I think with even the UDFAs, which we'll get to, there's definitely an emphasis on protection, Joe. And I think with Taj Brooks as well, because he is basically P-Man. That's, again, another protection lane for Joe, which we so much need. And he took my, quote, bowling ball. Love it.
Sorry, you should have trademarked that one, mate, honestly.
I don't know if I can do
that. Just before we do get to, Moz is going to run down the undrafted free agents for us. Callum and Jamie, just some questions for you. We were told that it was a really deep class for interior defensive linemen. Are you surprised that, with all that being said, that we didn't dip in to that pool? Who wants to go first on that one?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go for it. I am definitely more surprised that we haven't taken at least one of them. That class went down all the way to probably about the fourth or fifth round, where you could get a guy to contribute immediately from those picks. Your Ty Robinsons, your Norman Lotts, and things like that. It feels like a missed opportunity. We're kind of left here where the three techs in the room, it's BJ Hill and not much else. I wonder if they have Joseph Asai tagged as someone who can provide pass rush from a defensive tackle position, rather than sort of using him as the edge he has been. He did flash in that role a little bit towards the end of last year. Maybe that's something that they have in mind. They only had 6 picks. They were limited in what they could do. Maybe that's the game.
Before I get to you, Callum, the dude has been on, and Cowboys fan here from the US, just scrolling through feeds. Well, glad you found us, dude. Hope all is well, and hope you're ready for Trey Hendrickson to be wearing the silver and blue. Let's get that trade rolling. Well,
okay, give us Micah Parsons then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll swap you for Micah, no worries. And there was some chatter over the weekend, wasn't there, that the Rams had been calling about Henderson, but I think the Bengals are digging in with Henderson, and they'll get him to play out his contract. But Callum, as a DB's coach, I really loved the safeties, certainly in the first couple of 3 rounds. Obviously Malachi Starks, everyone was quite high on. Went to the bloody Ravens to partner with bloody Carl Hamilton, so that's going to be trouble.
Ravens have done it again.
Yeah, Mike Green as well. Yeah, absolutely. Taking a risk. Mind you, the Ravens, though, no strangers to controversial players. Let's just leave it at that. Nick Emenwari lasted till the second round, which was a bit of a surprise, and then Xavier Watts lasted until the third. So I guess my question is for you: were you impressed with the safety class, and would you have liked the Bengals to dip in there? And also the cornerback room. That still leaves people a bit nervous, really, I think.
It does.
How are you feeling about the back end of the defense?
I thought we'd take a safety this draft. I thought we would be in a position where we want a young guy to come in and challenge Geno Stone. He took a lot of heat last year, Geno Stone, for his play. I think our defense was operating in a way that was probably too complicated for its own good. We tried to do a lot of man-match concepts with guys that type of defense relies on a heavy amount of communication, and for whatever reason, we were just not doing it well.
Can I just put in here, as a coach last year, we spent hours debating what the hell has happened to this defense. What did you see as a coach? What did you see going on last year?
So there was a heavy shift towards man match, which is for a DB, you basically play if-then kind of roles in your head. So if my receiver is running vertical, I follow him no matter what. If my receiver goes infield, I leave him, but communicate that to the rest of the defense that he's gone infield, and I watch for the next person that's coming my way. So it's kind of like a zone defense, but it plays out like man. So for a quarterback, it can be really confusing to read because it'll look like someone's going to do something and then they'll snap off it at the last second because a new responsibility becomes their target for the play. It's a really, really efficient way of playing, but it requires a high level of football IQ and communication at the back end. So from a DB perspective, that's kind of where we fell down. We had
because you often saw that, right? You saw kind of players pass their opponents off, but the other player wasn't expecting it, or So was that a new wrinkle for this defense? Had Lou brought that in last year, or was it just new players adapting to Lou's scheme?
I think it's a bit of both. So we've got a lot of guys who were drafted as good man coverage guys, the likes of Taylor Britt, DJ Turner, really sticky man coverage guys, and we were asking them to then, cover them up into a point, but then you might have to break off if a new responsibility becomes available to you, and then to pass off the guy you're initially covering. It's not a new concept, but it's one that's gained traction over the last 3 or 4 years and has become more popular across other defenses. And the ones that do it really well have elite safety play. And I think that's where we really struggled. I think Gino came on well towards the end of the season, but I'm not sure whether his sort of final season stats are kind of padded by the fact we played a lot of really bad teams down the stretch, and he was able to profit from some very poor QB play on the other side. So going back to the draft, I'm really surprised that we didn't pick up Xavier Watts. I thought he was a lock if he was available because he's Al Golden's guy. We're probably going to see a return to more sort of man cover, one high safety, which is where Xavier Watts thrives. He can be the communicator at the back end. He knows the scheme that Golden wants to bring. But he's also a ball hawk. He does something that we haven't had since Jesse Bates left, which is to go and get the football. So that was a real surprise. I really liked Starks. He was one of the my guys in this draft, and just because of the versatility. But I kind of talked myself out of it because the versatile guys that we have picked in the past, Dax Hill, we don't know what to do with him. But he's going into his 5th year option, and he's in a potentially different position on the field on the defense right now. I think
they totally screwed up the Dax Hill thing, I think. But anyway, they probably won't say that. They'll say, no, he's going to be an outside corner. That's where he's been better. But really, in college, he thrived as he should be Mike Hilton's replacement, frankly. But
he should. I'm interested to see how Josh Newton plays out in the slot. I think he will be fine. I think it will mask some of his coverage issues being in the slot. He won't have the elite speed guys necessarily. He can play slightly more off. We can use him coming forward.
He has got good instincts, old Fig, hasn't he? Old Figures. Okay, so that's that. Shall we? A stranger 420. He says, "Who day from Oregon." So that's about 2, just after 2 in the morning, I think. That's
rough.
It's a good shout, mate. That's a good shout. He said, what happened was Lou lost the room. I think Golden not taking Watts tells us what we need to know about him. Okay. What does that mean?
The guy I really liked in this draft for the DB room went to the Titans, Kevin Winston Jr. That guy should have been a first round pick if he was healthy. And then for us to draft their child and for him to go pick immediately after broke my heart. I was so lost.
Honestly, the draft will kill you. It's the hope. We just get so entrenched into kind of picking our guys. Morris, did you have any draft crushes that you were just gutted to see our opponents take? The Steelers took Derek Harmon, which was another guy that we kind of had pegged, didn't we, in the first round? Bloody Steelers. The Ravens took Mike Green. Although, to be fair, I'm not going to have a go at the Bengals for that because plenty of other teams passed on Mike Green. And it just so happens that, it just fell to them, really. So, draft crushes. Who were your draft crushes and who were you particularly upset to see go to a different team?
Walter
John McDowell says FTS, by the way, and we couldn't agree more. Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Go on, Bon. Sorry,
Walter Nolan was the one I really wanted. And how he played out, not getting a DT was kind of detrimental, I think. That was the main one. That was like the real, especially because he was literally the pick before. And then we ended up with Shamar. I love Winston. I thought he was a really good player. And again, straight after. I mean, I don't try to get too bogged down, to be fair, with crushes and stuff like that, just because in reality, you're probably not going to get them anyway. And especially with how we draft. So I don't get too bogged down, really. So it's life, you know. I'm jealous of the Eagles. I'm always jealous of the Ravens. Good teams draft well, and they constantly do it.
Tell you what's really good teams. It seems like all the players that people pass up on, and like all the fandom on social media gets juiced up about, they just tend to end up with them. Why is that? Why does that happen? I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?
Because everyone's idiots. It's plain and simple.
Stranger also says, I got 2 of my guys this year, which is 2 more than most years, Knight and Brooks. That's a pretty good checkbox. As I say, Demetrius was one of my main guys, so I'm delighted about that. Right, Moz, come on, give us some undrafted free agent news. Who are we looking at? Who's on the list so far?
Well, I've got 8 players, which, considering it's UDFA, and usually we're getting excited about a guy who's literally got no toes and Puka Williams. To be fair, he was all right, to be fair, but that was the curious nature that he had half a foot missing. But yeah, I've literally got 8 players. Not all of them I'm going to go in depth. I will say, when the Bengals picked over and I ended up watching Zach Taylor's interview, one of the first questions was about DT, and he looked pissed that we didn't get one. He looked really, really annoyed. He was like, yeah, we're getting some. And literally, the moment it ended, Howard crossed the 3rd, instantly picked Eric Gregory. Again, are they going to make it? Who knows? But we've definitely got aggressive there. Another player, Jordan Moore, the wide receiver. I presume everyone's seen that catch that's going around on Twitter.
Yeah, it's doing the rounds.
Really good separator. And I think back end of wide receiver is open, you know, because Jermaine Burton's one issue away from being booted. Chuck Sizzle really hasn't done much, and he gets injured quite a lot. So there's definitely a potential place for him. Jamoy Mays, Bearcats, about time we got a Bearcat into there. Caleb Etienne, very athletic, had a draftable grades. Cole Taylor, I didn't really know much about him. I watched him last night with me, Jen. Just married with Mike Gesicki. You know, he's just a receiver. Good yards after the catch, the same yard after catch as Gunnar Helm, who I know is another person a lot of Bengals fans like myself included. But the 2 that are really interesting, one is very interesting in the fact he's a long snapper, and so that's Will Wagner. Dane Brugler's number 1 long snapper, general consensus number 2. With the issues last season, that is going to be fascinating to see if Callum Myers sticks around, because last year was not good enough from, you know, the kicking team in general. And that is really fascinating. That is the one that really gets it. But also, everyone's consensus best player available, the Bengals ended up with him. That never happened. Seth McLaughlin, a guy, you know, pre-ACL injury, he's possibly going round 3, potentially, probably not because he's not athletic enough, but he was definitely a high-end middle round pick for sure. And to get him UDFA and more bolstering that outline, Matt Lee's competition is fascinating. I'm quite proud that the Bengals have been so aggressive, because we never normally are in UDFA. And this group has potential to stick around. All of them, them ones I've listed, have got to stick around in practice squad, maybe even the 53. Fascinating.
Yeah, I've just been looking at Cincinnati Jungle. Apparently, we've got Quale Conley, a running back, quarterback Peyton Thorne from Auburn. Like you say, William Wagner.
Oh, he's going to be Drew Plitt this year.
Yeah, that's right. Seth McLaughlin, Howard Cross, Eric Gregory. Safety from Rutgers, Shaquan Loyal. Another wide receiver from Oklahoma State, Rashad Owens. And so that's interesting. Jamie, you're okay. Yash says Bengals are the Spurs of the NFL, and which is probably the biggest insult that you can throw at someone. Stringer says, I've been reading that Shamar isn't just a defensive end. He moved all over the line. I like him better after reading that. Yeah, I mean, there's some. His athleticism and the quickness of get off is just staggering, right? From Shamar Stewart. It's whether he can finish. I've got problems with his tackling. So all these things need to be, refined. Jamie, you keep your eye on long snappers. You've got opinions about long snappers.
Yes.
And you weren't happy last year, were you, with Adamitis?
No, I think quite a bit of the kicking issues were errant snaps, things like that, and it's not the full Brad St. Louis, but the Brad St. Louis thing, all those years, kind of made me think that they're too, that they're too loyal to bad long snappers. We were spoiled for years and years and years by Clark Harris, who pretty much got everything on target.
Pro bowler,
Pro bowler, captain, leader, legend. Adamitis needs to. I mean, this is competition now. He's in a competition and he has to win that job, because I don't think it's automatically his anymore.
So what we're saying is 3 or 4 of those undrafted free agents have a real shot of doing something here. So good luck to those. We're coming to the end of this Good Morning Bengals on this Sunday morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just want to go around the guys here. I mean, what's the point? Snap grades, but
yeah,
people do. And also, what would you like to see next? I mean, do you think we should dip in and get Brandon Scherf or Dalton Reisner, or do we go in and try and get another experienced safety? I mean, just give us what happens next. Give us a grade and what happens next. I'll start with you, Callum.
I think for me, B-. We didn't necessarily have the big name players, but I think we've just about managed to draft for need and talent. I think if we can sign a free agent guard, particularly Reisner and Scherf, sort of jump off the board there to give us a bit more stability there. We're not going to be forced to start a rookie or have a rookie necessarily just compete with one player. I think that's going to be good. We've got 3 experienced guards there. What prevented it being better for me was the fact we were reaching. Yes, we got players who will probably start, but we were reaching for them far too early. And I think that there was better value available. And if you look at the teams that are perennially doing well in the NFL, that aren't just relying on the star power of a quarterback, they draft the best player available, regardless of position, and figure it out afterwards. And I think, that's holding us back a little bit right now.
Jamie?
C, and C's get degrees. I think this could work out. Like Colin said, it's about the reaches. We've gone, I think, around too early on Knight, even though I think he's a very good player. The Dylan Fairchild pick smacks me as that we've been doing a lot of work on Tate Ratledge, and then we started noticing the guy on the other side. Is he a 3rd rounder? Maybe. Barrett Carter has his own problems, but there is something there. Jalen Rivers is a pick I really like, and I mean that's a bargain. IMO, and I think Taj Brooks can contribute. So there are green shoots there. There are things that we can work with. We should go out and get a free agent guard now. Get on the phone now and get it sorted. And then it's just a case of kind of rooting around and see if there's any, cut down guys that can improve things. I was kind of surprised we didn't take either a receiver or a cornerback out of habit. But I guess if you only have 6 picks, you're limited in what you can do.
Moz, what's your feeling on this one?
The hate Greg after an NFL draft. I think a C as well. The day one is too much of an issue for me to be overly ecstatic as much as I think they will contribute very early, which we need. But it's just a case of what could have been a lot of the time. And, I think the problem is more the process of the Bengals, the front office, which has left us in this situation. I mean, we talk about the Eagles all the time of whatever. They're the model to follow. Bengals are probably the opposite, and we need to learn. We're getting better, I think, as a franchise, but the lack of free agency killed us, I think, a lot with this draft. And, as much as we enjoy the day 3 picks, your day 3 picks, 100% Ryzen should be here yesterday. How he maybe just waiting for his options, or Scherf. I think it's very telling that we kept seeing left guard for both of these prospects coming through. So there's right guard well open. I can't imagine that Lucas Patrick's penciled in to start.
I think
technically he is right now. I just find it hard that we think that's okay. But this is the Bengals, so
yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
Guys, thank you so much for giving up a bit of time, giving us a bit of your time on this Sunday morning. It's a glorious Sunday morning here in the Shire, so I'm going to get out there. Callum, I hope you enjoyed your debut on Bengals UK content. Thank you so much for stepping in. Mine's always a pleasure. Jamie, you too. Big up, Jamie, for doing a fab job on Twitter on Thursday.
It was like the Michael Jordan flu game.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
in Twitter form.
I hope you're feeling better, and we'll do. Guys, thank you so much. And we'll be back tomorrow, the Monday, the 28th, and me and Nathan will be back with Cincinnati. And all good in the hood. So thank you so much. Who day to everyone. Have a great Sunday.